On today's episode of Locked On Aggies, we are going to predict who is going to start on this Texas A&M defense.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a little Micah Hudson update. Just saw an article from some Texas Tech folks that want to talk about that just for a minute or two. Going to talk about the Aggies' massive win on the hardwood over Ole Miss. Just an all-around fun, awesome basketball game. Hope everyone got to enjoy that game as much as I did. Walk-off three is always fun, so we'll break it down and talk about it. Still some concerns for me, and we're gonna get to it here in a minute. But this basketball team's interesting, but man, they're fun. But we're going to start the show. Like I said, we're going to do yesterday. Yesterday, we did the way too early 2025 defensive depth chart. Our Texas A&M Aggies on SI wrote these articles, and I'm kind of running through and sharing. Do I agree? Do I disagree with what they have here? Today, we're going to run through the defense. And this one, I think that the offense is a little bit more I think we know more what the offense might look like compared to this defense. So I think this one's going to be a little bit more interesting in the fact of like, hey, I'm going to disagree with some things here. So first, we're going to start with my biggest disagreement, and that is defensive end. So it depends the technical verbiage for what Cassius Howell is. He plays jack, which is the, outside edge rusher. That's what he plays. I mean, some offenses, that's a defensive end. Some offenses, it's, an edge rusher, a jack. There's different terms for it. But on this article, they don't list a jack and they don't list Cassius Howell as a starter. And I don't care if he's playing safety or corner. Obviously, that's a joke. Cassius Howell is going to be starting on this defense. I don't think people are talking enough about how awesome Cassius Howell was. He almost played 500 snaps, and his PFF grade was like an 81.5. His pass rush grade, this says, when it comes to, here's a tweet, of all returning edge rushers in the SEC, only Dylan Stewart from South Carolina with a 91.5 had a better pass rush grade than Cassius Howell, who had an 87.4. Cassius Howell is going to have a breakout season. People aren't talking about him. I think he's the guy that could be a first-round pick. I think he is that good. I think that part of the issue of Cassius Howell was how good the rest of the defensive line was, to where it's kind of like you forget how good he was. So if we're not in this article, if we're not going to list a jack, then we need to list Cassius Howell as one of these ends. That's just the reality. If we're not going to list a jack. So the two ends they have listed on this article are Hayes and Tyler O'Yenham. And listen, if you're not going to list a jack of these positions, you'd have to categorize them as an end. That's the only option. So if you're not going to list a jack, I think you have to put Howell as an edge or as a defensive end if you don't have edge or anything. So to me, that's why I think if you're not going to list jack, you have to list him as one of the starters there, and they did not. So, but I agree that, and what's funny? I don't think Dayon Hayes is the guy. I think I like Searcy from Florida more than I like Hayes. I think Hayes is going to be a good role player for this defense, but I don't think that he is going to be a starter. I think that Mpemba, Searcy, Solomon Williams, and even Ryland Kennedy, I think a lot of these guys have better shots to start on defense. All right, Eddie, and then I think Deion Hayes is a good player, but I think we have better players is kind of my thought there. So, and then at nose, he's got Albert Regis. I'm fine with that. I agree with that. I think that Albert Regis is going to have a really good year this year. Then you've got DJ Hicks at tackle. I agree there. I think that DJ Hicks. Now, I'm still a believer that they're going to go. I think between the recording of this podcast and the start of next season for the Aggies, you're going to see some more interior defensive linemen brought into the room. And when that happens, I think that you're going to see this potentially change. But right now, I agree with that for those interior guys. Then, like I said, the other defensive end would be Oyenum. I like Oyenum a lot. I think where he plays position-wise could end up being a little interesting. I could see him playing somewhere other than that end spot. I mean, once again, Oyenum is a player that comes over from Iowa State. He's a dominant force stopping the run. I would find somewhere to put him on the interior, knowing, I believe that he's, let's see. Let's get a height and weight on Tyler Oyenum. I believe he's he's over 300 pounds, right? On Yenum. 295, 6'4", 295. So, yeah, you could play him at tackle if you want to play him at tackle, in my opinion. So, I guess that there is your defensive line. But once again, I think that's the unit. Like, we're going to talk about linebackers and secondary players. I think that defensive line is the unit that has the most left. It's kind of to be left to happen when it comes to the portal. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we have a whole nother portal window that's going to open up here in a few weeks. So, or in a few months. So I don't see that being the final shape and look of the, I don't see that being the final look of the defensive line when it comes to the start of next season. And I would say, for the most part, most of that help's going to come in the interior. But no, I do not think the defensive line is a completed unit yet. But right now, that's how I would shape it up. But one thing I can tell you with confidence, with absolute certainty, is that Cassius Howell is going to be out there with the starters. And, seriously, I think Cassius Howell, I think that the hype is going to come. I don't think that – I think it's going to come, but I'll tell you this. I think that Cassius Howell is one of the most underrated players in the SEC ahead of next season. I think he has the upside to be a first-round NFL draft pick. His pass rush numbers on PFF were incredible. I just think he's going to have a special season next year. So I'm fired up to see that. So, yeah, there's not a way in the world where he is not on this starting defensive line for the Aggies. We're going to move on and talk about the linebackers and the secondary, and we'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Talkspace. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a challenge. That's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for the most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo code SPACE80 to match with a licensed therapist today. Go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, enter promo code SPACE80, SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, promo code SPACE80, SPACE80. So moving on to the linebacker room on this article, they have Terrion York at the Will and Scooby Williams at the Mike. Ironically, I've seen a lot of folks with other names listed than Scooby Williams. So that's what I agree with. But like I said, I have seen a lot of other places, articles and stuff not have Scooby Williams as the projected guy. So I agree with that. It's good to see that. I think that's going to be the reality. Let's read the blurb here next to Terrion York. It says the Aggies bring both of their starting inside linebackers, with York being one who's been in College Station the longest after playing alongside Edgerton Cooper as a true freshman. Which, by the way, what a season Coops had up in Green Bay, man. Good for him, or a season he had. I guess it's over now, but really cool to see that. He enjoyed a productive sophomore season. York started in all 13 appearances, totaling 82 tackles, 10 for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 1 interception. Playing behind will be Jordan Lockhart, in addition to incoming freshman Noah McHale and Kelvion Riggins. I agree with that. This room, you've seen some guys transfer out. I think those are the guys that I'm paying the most attention to when it comes to the backups behind York and Scooby Williams. The blurb here on Scooby Williams says the former Florida transfer remained productive even after his move to College Station. He played in 11 games for the Aggies last season, totaling 43 tackles, 8 for a loss, and 1 interception. His decision to hold off entering the NFL draft means the Aggies will have 2 veteran inside linebackers lining up behind a potentially young defensive line, which is true. I think that having a group of older linebackers, I think that's good for this defense, knowing that yes, I think you're going to have a little bit of a younger defensive line. I still think they're going to get some more veteran guys, but it is a little bit younger of a group, especially compared to what you've had. So I think it's great that you're going to have some veteran linebackers in there to kind of help teach these guys, and so they know what's going on. At corner, they've got Julian Humphrey, the transfer from Georgia, in there. And I think that here's the blurb on it. It says another position group that will be watched carefully throughout the spring practice and heading into the start of the season. After Texas A&M ranked 90th in passing defense, with their secondary being subject of a post-game rant from Coach Micah Hudson following the loss to USC. Changes are expected to be made. Elko brought some changes with the addition of Julian Humphrey and Jordan Shaw via the transfer portal. It seems likely that at least one will start for the Aggies next season. And considering Des Ricks earned an 48.6 defensive grade from PFF, we projected to be Humphrey who starts. Humphrey started last season as one of Georgia's 2 outside corners. However, following his midseason benching, he entered the transfer portal ahead of the team's SEC championship win. Humphrey recorded just 10 tackles and 4 passes defended in his 11 appearances last season for the Bulldogs. I think that Humphrey's a player that has a lot of upside. I think that he, when you play for Georgia, they've got so much talent over there. If you don't show up early in the year, don't expect to be out there playing, because you are going to be benched. And so, I mean, looking at this room, I think that you're going to see Julian Humphrey be a guy that does get a lot of snaps. I think he's going to be out there as a starter. I agree. I think that it's going to be a little bit interesting to see. It does scare me talking about a player. Oh, well, he was benched in the SEC, but I'm a believer in these players have talent. He didn't have his best year. Bring him in, continue to develop him. He's a talented guy, and it could be there. And I mean, once again, Des Ricks had a pretty terrible season last year. You need to upgrade at that position, and I think that Humphrey is hopefully going to be that upgrade that you're looking for. So we're going to see what ends up happening there. Then, of course, you got Will Lee. Will Lee is just going to be an absolute beast this year. It said with Humphrey starting on one side, Will Lee projects to be his partner on the outside. Lee started 13 games for the Aggies last season, earned nomination to the All-SEC second team performance. That reflects a 68.1 defensive grade from Pro Football Focus. His strong performance from last season makes it seem safe to assume he will keep his starting job next season. I agree. I think Will Lee is going to take another step next year. What I like about Will Lee, I think that playing corner is the toughest position to play in football, aside from probably, I think corner, quarterback, and left tackle are the hardest positions to play in this game. But, I think that I like the way he plays the game and the way he talks crap and the way I like it, but like in a respectful way. I like that because to me, that tells me that, he's not going to back down to anybody. I really like the way Willie plays the game. I think he's going to take another step forward this year. And I do think he's a player that can work his way into the NFL draft. So I'm all in on Willie. I think he had a good year last year. I think he's going to have a dominant year this year playing corner for the Aggies. Then at nickel, he's got the Washington transfer Shaw. This is where the Washington transfer will fit in for the Aggies during his 13-game season for the Huskies. Shaw played the majority of snaps as the slot corner, total 37 tackles, 4 for a loss, 6 passes defended. With him set to play for his third school in 3 years as he started his career at Indiana before transferring, he looks to start in College Station. And then at safety, you've got Marcus Ratcliffe, former San Diego State. I agree with this. Started in 12 of 13 games for the Aggies last season. Doesn't look likely to change as he heads into his junior season. He earned a 69.8 defensive grade in PFF. Marcus Radcliffe's going to be your guy. And then, of course, Bryce Anderson's going to be your other guy. The names to pay attention to in this room that aren't Anderson and Radcliffe to me are Jared Kerr. I think he's the guy that – I think Jared Kerr is the guy that – if he is going to have another player hop in the safety room, it would be him. Also, wouldn't be all that surprised if the coaching staff went and got another few players to play the safety position. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I think that the safety room is a little bit thin right now. It's a little thin, and I think that you're going to see them go get a few more players there. So I'm curious what happens with that. Let me know in the YouTube comments what defenders could work their way into this starting lineup, work their way into this conversation to be legit guys on this roster. I really want to hear y'all's thoughts on that. Before we move on to this basketball game, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Micah Hudson. So this is an article from a Texas Tech writer. It says, just when it appeared that Micah Hudson's saga at Texas Tech was over, new life is being breathed into the relationship between the sophomore wide receiver and his former school. Rumors about a possible union between the five-star high school recruit and Red Raiders are running rampant online. The Temple, Texas native signed with Texas Tech with Tech's class in 2024. So then he goes on to talk about this, and he said it was reported that he was stepped away from the A&M program, personal reasons. It was not announced whether he was returned or not. Now there's a ton of smoke online about a possible return to Texas Tech. In fact, Wednesday's Locked On Texas Tech podcast, they talk about him maybe coming back. So, I mean, to me, I'll tell you this, whether he's back at Texas Tech, I just don't see Micah Hudson playing for Texas A&M next year. That's not going to happen to me, in my opinion. I just don't see it happening. I think you're going to see Hudson. I think he's probably going to go back to Tech if I had to guess right now. I'm going to reach out to our Locked On Texas Tech host to kind of see what he's hearing, but I just don't have a good feeling about this. If y'all are hearing anything about Micah Hudson, let me know in the YouTube comments. Reach out to me on social media. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts on it, but no, I do not feel good about Micah Hudson playing for the Aggies next season. We're going to talk a little bit about the win over Ole Miss, and we'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the only place anyone should ever be purchasing tickets to any kind of event. As I've told y'all all the time, I bought tickets. Me and my dad are going to a basketball game. We got tickets on Game Time. Him and I went to go see Shane Gillis last weekend. Got those tickets on Game Time. I got tickets to a concert for my mom and I. Got them on Game Time. I'm telling y'all, Game Time is the only place that anyone should be purchasing tickets to any event. I absolutely love the app. It's easy to use. I love how simple it is to use this app. Promise you will not regret going to check out Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So the Aggies get the victory over Ole Miss in stunning fashion. I mean, it's a game where we never saw Texas A&M have a lead until they go ahead 63-62, thanks to a three-pointer from Manny Obaseki to give the Aggies the lead. I mean, what an absolute incredible ending to that ball game. Still frustrated with the play of Wade Taylor. 2 of 12, 0 of 6 from 3, 4 points. I mean, that's not going to get the job done. You know, he missed a few games. I'm hoping that it's just kind of the getting the rust off and getting back into the flow of things. I mean, another game where Zerk Phelps goes 6-19. My biggest concern in this offense, and hey, it's good to see Obaseki go 4 for 7. But I mean, there were a point in this game where there was, you know, I mean, I saw someone tweet, and I forget to tweet if this was you, shout out, but I saw someone tweet, Manny, the possession ends here, Obaseki. People often say that about Michael Porter Jr. Of the Denver Nuggets, which is quite funny to me. You know, possession ends here means once I get the ball, I'm dribbling until I shoot it, or I'm catching and shooting. Possessions ending right here. And I mean, I find that quite funny. I think that it's a good, it's a funny thought, but I mean, I also think at the same time, we need more ball movement. I'm almost to the point now. I'm like wrestling this in my brain. I'm like wrestling the thought of, you know what? It's never going to happen. We're just going to play offense like this, and whatever happens, happens. I'm kind of like wrestling, like, is that just the reality for us right now? And I think it might be. I think that this might just be who this Texas A&M team is. I don't know if you're ever going to see elite passing or elite ball movement. But, I mean, once again, it's a game where you get 14 offensive rebounds compared to Ole Miss's 6 offensive rebounds. You dominate the offensive glass. You dominate the total rebounding with they had 31 total rebounds compared to Texas A&M's 48. What I do like about this team is while the offense can be ugly and there's some poor decisions and things that just absolutely are aging me at a quick rate, the things that they do well, they do at an exceptional level. They are the best rebounding team in college basketball, in my opinion. I mean, you're getting 6 rebounds from Phelps, 3 from Taylor, 2 from Hefner. I mean, you're getting rebounds from all over the court. I mean, everybody's bringing in a lot of boards, and I love to see that. Also, another thing I loved about this game is we got to see Wilcher come in. He played 5 minutes, and he was 2-4-3. He has got to get more playing time. I think that Wilcher needs 15 minutes a game because he is just such a good shooter. I think that he is the best shooter on this team, yet we have guys going 6-19 and 2-12. I mean, and we shot 8-28 from the field. So would love to see Wilcher get more minutes, but this is a big win for this basketball team. Ole Miss is legit. Ole Miss is good. I'm bought into that. I mean, really, I am bought into that. I fully do believe that. So, you know, that's a good basketball team you just beat on the road in a game where you didn't lead until the three-pointer that went down with less than 15 seconds on the clock. What a win. What a basketball game. It was a ton of fun to watch. The Aggies play those dreaded 13-6 Longhorns on the hardwood on Saturday. You've already beat them once here in SEC play as you steamrolled them at home, but now you got to go to their place. We'll preview that game on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Aggies. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really appreciate it. Hope you all have a great rest of your day today, and we'll see you tomorrow on Friday right here on Locked On Aggies.